I love chaos. I'm doing 800 things.
You didn't start doing 800.
That's right. And anytime I know I'm about to do something, I did VaynerMedia head down for 5 years to build a foundation to do things.
I always tell people this.
Hey everybody, it's Gary Vay, Nerd Chuck, and this is episode 304 of the Ask Gary V show, and I'm really excited for this next guest, and we're coming in super cold. Nick D on my team said, hey, I think Strauss should be on your show. I'm like, 100%. Being invited to a Strauss party maybe 9 years ago in the tech kind of media scene was a super highlight for me, and some of you who know me know that Ben Lair is a very good friend of mine, and like 3 months earlier than that party, Ben and I, you know how like guys or gals get into like a meme of like something that's funny to them? Somehow a movie called Ghoulies became this like really funny thing. You know that movie?
It's like a zeitgeist, like pop culture zeitgeist movie.
Was it? I thought it was like a horror movie. Like,
yeah, it was a little bit of both.
Here's the punchline. Somehow at Sundance, this movie, Ghoulies, which I didn't know about, but then like in this weekend, it became the most important thing in my life. So then a couple months later, we go to Strauss's house for this event or what have you. Somehow not a lot of people are left. And somehow me and Ben are somehow it gets referenced. Ghoulies, like we say something, it's like the inside joke, it's the meme. And Strauss goes, I made that movie. Which to this day is a top like 10. Strauss and I have not spent a whole lot of time together. We have a lot of mutual friends. I have an enormous amount of admiration from him from afar. I'm going to let him paint a 5-minute context of his career, and then we'll do some Q&A because I think he's going to help a lot of entrepreneurs. And then anything else, Strauss, on your mind, I'd love to know, anything that you want to talk about. But the Ghoulies thing is a top 10 moment. Like from the heat, I think everybody can associate with this. You have friends, random becomes something you all talk about. This was like white hot. Like I basically said the word Ghoulies 87,000 times over a 1 week period, and then 1 week later, the man who greenlit the movie. It was an amazing event. I don't know if you remember that, Strauss.
I do remember the story. I am probably going to like ruin the whole thing. I'm not sure I made
Ghoulies.
I made Goonies or Ghoulies, and I never went to look to see which one was ours. After we had this conversation.
No, but I think if you made Goonies, you would definitely know it. Goonies is the greatest movie of all time.
Well, we made either Goonies or Ghoulies, but anyhow.
I think you made Ghoulies.
All right, we made the worst.
Yeah, you made Ghoulies.
Whichever one was worse,
good news,
that's the one
Strauss,
we made. Yeah.
That's the one you made.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we were not talking about Goonies, what I think is actually a top 10 movie of all time.
No, I would have remembered
Spielberg,
making any. We didn't make a Steven Spielberg movie. I barely met Steven Spielberg.
You made Ghoulies, which is a movie that nobody what's going on? You got something? Yes. Yeah, anyway, nonetheless.
That does look familiar.
Strauss, for everybody who's watching, there's a ton of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people. Why don't you give everybody like a 3-minute, like kind of comic book episode 1, who you are, your career, a little bit about you.
So on the career side, I always wanted to be in the entertainment business from growing up for no particular reason.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Boston and then New Jersey.
Yep.
And
what part of Jersey?
South Orange.
Love it. Very close to Wine Library. My wine store was in Springfield, Short Hills.
Yeah, very close.
Very close. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I went to Wesleyan undergrad. I went right to grad school out of college because I didn't want to work. And I figured a couple more years in school.
Yep.
And I was trying to figure out how to get into entertainment. And a friend of a friend helped me get my first job in entertainment, which was a summer internship at Viacom. And I worked there. I had an amazing summer, met some people. That led to my first full-time job, which was at Columbia Pictures Television in sales. Which wasn't really what I had in mind. I wanted to run a movie studio, but okay, it's a good place to start.
But flat out, at that young of an age, you're like, that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, I knew I wanted to run a movie studio when I was 5 years old. And
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't even...
How did you even know that existed?
I didn't even watch... Like, I wasn't allowed to go to the movies, particularly. I mean, it was
heard parents talking about it?
No, it was completely made up. My dad was a lawyer. So, no clue, but I was committed to it. So...
So wait, real quick, just for one more time, because I need to rewind that. You're not sure, because you're young, how it got into your zeitgeist, but you immediately became committed to it.
Yeah, I think I had some sense like that it was very glamorous
Yes.
and that you could be like...
But at 5, you cared about the girls already?
I think it was more about the money.
God, respect. One or the other. I guessed wrong. Keep going.
Yeah. Little did I know.
Yes.
There are better ways to make money.
That's for sure.
Anyhow, I got recruited from Columbia to go to what was then the largest home entertainment company Vestron. It's the early days of home entertainment. That's how long ago it was. And they were launching a motion picture initiative, and I became the president of the company like 9 months later. So
How old were you at the time?
I was 29. So I was
it.
basically 3 years out of school.
Yep.
And I mean, to say that I didn't know anything is a gross understatement. I used to say, my friends were like, well, this is a public company, and it was the biggest independent. And the question was like, well, why would you be president of this company? And my answer was, well, I'm definitely not competent for the job. I'm definitely glad they gave it to me. So I did that.
And at this point, for a lot of people who are listening, like these days, 29, having a big company or a big job, not insane.
Wasn't that either in
No?
the entertainment
No?
business? No.
Okay.
It's always been a business that gave young people opportunities
At-bats.
early. No, it was definitely, I mean, it was precocious, but first of all, an old person talking about what it was like to be young and successful is pathetic. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. But no, Barry Diller was in his early 30s when he was chairman of Paramount.
Yep.
So it was not at all unheard of for successful people. That went really well because the first picture I greenlit became the highest grossing independent film of all time, which I do remember, which was Dirty Dancing. And then
That's that.
We made a bunch of other movies. There were some that did very
Ghoulies.
well.
I remember this is how this conversation went down. No, you made Ghoulies.
I know you're committed to it, but I think it's I just don't want people like
look it up.
I know people are going to be if it's not a Vestron movie, like I completely made it up, and now Gary's like it ruined the rest of his night.
This is like literally my top 10
So it either
favorite
was or
stories.
was not distributed by Vestron, and I just don't want to get the ugly emails saying I made that movie. How could you take credit for it?
By Luca.
But was it distributed by Vestron?
Who distributed?
Yeah, you got to figure. Or whose catalog is in now, and then I could tell you. Anyway, moving on. That went pretty well. I was recruited from there to become president of 20th Century Fox.
Go ahead.
And I was president of Fox. That was a great run. We had a whole bunch of hits. So after being in the movie business for 7 years, I really sort of revised my goals, having met what I thought was a very long-term goal pretty quickly. And I decided to revise my goals, say I really want to do something that's in entertainment but also highly entrepreneurial. And I sort of surveyed the landscape, and I said, and this is 1993, I said, I think video games are going to become a huge entertainment business. And I went to a company called Crystal Dynamics, which was a pre-revenue video game company, as the first CEO, built that company up. And then after we'd sort of got it to critical mass, I left to do a turnaround of a huge record company back in the days when that wasn't an oxymoron. That was called BMG.
Yep.
And that went super well. Took it from last place to nearly first place. It would have been first place, but 1 and 2 merged. So we were second place, but it was a great result. We had a lot of great hits and turned around the RCA label and other things. And then I revised my goals once again and said, okay, my goal now is to run a diversified media company that's supercharged by digital technology. And that was...
What year was that?
That was 2001, and that was considered somewhat out there. I mean, people had gotten the memo on digital technology, but I was always seen as the new media person. And I kind of...
And this was post-April 2000 where things melted.
Yeah,
right?
So that's right. And
you saw that as the opportunity.
I saw it as an opportunity. I mean, most people thought it was a terrible time. My view is there's never a good time. There's no time when you're starting a business and you look around and say, wow, this is an awesome time. It's always hard.
That's right.
But it was the time when I was ready, and I was done working for other people. And so we started what has become ZMC, and we had just, it's always fun to tell these stories. So we had no offices, no capital, no people, not really a business plan. And I started the business with $300,000 of my own money. So for the last 18 years, we've been building up that company. And today we have assets in the many billions of dollars and very little debt, great deal of cash. And we own a number of leading companies in the media, communications, and entertainment business. Well, our biggest company is Take-Two Interactive, which is a leading video game company, the third largest, with titles like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, NBA 2K, Borderlands, BioShock, Civilization, many others. We own, with partners, 9 Story, which is a leading Canadian-based animation company, great hits and great titles. We have an investment in a company called Dynasty Sports. We own IT Renew, which is a so-called ITAD company. It's a pretty arcane part of the data center space. We're big believers in the growth of data. We own Canelo, which is a leading direct response television advertising company, AdThrive, a digital advertising company, and a number of other interests.
And what's happening with your day-to-day these days within that ecosystem?
My day-to-day is I'm a partner at ZMC, and I'm the chief executive of Take-Two. So, but Take-Two is a part of ZMC. So I have the luxury that I'm able to both invest and operate in the media business, and I am able to. Our entire thesis is based around the notion that technology will continue to transform and inform media and entertainment. And we only invest behind that thesis. And the reason that we've never suffered a loss and we've been able to grow a very significant business from nothing, at least so far, is because we don't look at what's happening tomorrow or next quarter or in a year.
Right?
We look 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And so far, we haven't gotten it wrong. So in 2001, people in our business, and we did have access to capital or we couldn't have bought these companies, people in our business were buying newspapers and consumer magazines.
Yep.
And that was sexy and appealing. We didn't do those deals because we thought print was compromised. And of course we were right. We did, however, buy an online market research company before that was sexy, and obviously took over a video game company in 2007 that was very nearly bankrupt. And the perception was that company, had no chance of making it. That company's market cap today is about $10 billion, a little bit more. So.
What's kind of most exciting you right now as you look out 5, 10, 15 years?
I think this is just the beginning. So for a lot of people think that, and I just heard this at a conference, we've kind of established what the internet can do. We've kind of established what digital technology can do. It's all going to settle down. And now, the move forward in digitally driven media will be evolutionary, not revolutionary. I completely disagree. I think the next 30 or 40 years will be the most exciting time that the media business has ever seen. And you will see it in every part, whether it's B2B, which we're in, or B2C, which we're in, or pure entertainment, which we're in, or infrastructure, which we're in. And the reason I believe in that is several-fold.
History.
First is
that's why you
history,
believe in
right?
it.
Because I think
But honestly, right?
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah, in the 1880s, the head of the U.S. Patent Office said, I think pretty much everything has been invented.
That's it.
So,
you just know what humans do.
Yeah, we just keep inventing.
Either their framework of perspective doesn't allow them to historically understand the context, or they are financially invested in the outcome that comes out of their mouth.
And often, frankly, emotionally invested.
100%.
Because everyone's financially invested in staying ahead of change. It's more emotionally invested. Change scares a lot of people.
But I think you'll appreciate this, right? Like, to me, I'm, of course, financially invested in all the things I do. However, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm putting my money where my mouth is versus hoping that the thing maintains for the next 27 months because I need to sell my stock at 27 months and go do what I want to do personally after that.
Yeah, what a horrible way to live. By the way, whenever people give me a story like that, I'm like, see, here's the problem with that plan. You could walk outside and get hit by a truck tomorrow. You got to be careful about delaying things for that. So anyway, I think, if you believe in Moore's Law, which I do, you believe that whatever data consumption you want to project for 5 years from now, aggregate data consumption, you're wrong. It will be more.
Couldn't agree more.
You want to project what devices will look like. So Nick's holding an iPhone. I don't know which one. Looks like a 9.
If it's mine, it's new.
All right, or 10. So that form factor, in 10 years, we'll look back in that form factor and we will think it's really funny. Looking at a couple cameras in here, these form factors will look really funny in 10 years.
I just don't understand how people don't understand. It's history.
Right. So
do you know how rad as the Walkman was? I know you do.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it was just like the crazy.
You couldn't believe it. Yeah.
The Razor phone was the single most important status item. Seth, you're old enough. I'm impressed. Right. People are unbelievably confused about how it actually works.
So what we do, is we look at the world and we try to think about where that's going to be in 5 or 10 years. And then, to the point about preservation versus, innovation or disintermediation, we got to be the ones to disintermediate ourselves.
100%.
And that's a very hard task. But if you're worried about cannibalization in your core business, you should be the one cannibalizing your core business, or someone else will do it for you.
Something I said to a buddy a long time ago that I use a lot, it was the first time I said it, and I'll never forget. I said, look, I'd rather put myself out of business than have somebody else do it for me.
Exactly.
It's exactly right.
Yeah. And when I got to the record business in '94, the first thing we did was launch websites, which was innovative,
Right.
and start thinking about how we can do digital distribution. By the way, we didn't do such a great job, but we were trying really hard.
Yeah, I mean,
so
in the
we
early
weren't
days-
surprised
right.
when the Napsters came along. We were prepared for it, and we were
How do you
best
think-
positioned than
How do you
anyone.
think about blockchain? Forget about Bitcoin and all that stuff. Blockchain.
Look, I think the notion of a widely distributed network, for computing is fine. The problem with the blockchain technology is, so far anyway, for you to create the additional nodes, you have to create an incentive for people to create the nodes.
That's right.
And so far, the incentive has been currency.
That's right.
And so if you have something that on the one hand has no owner and is highly distributed, on the other hand has no built-in incentive, a bit of a question. The internet had a built-in incentive, which is I want to express myself,
Yep.
or I want to transact, or I want to have you come see something.
It was human.
But it's hard to know in the absence of currency how you're going to make the blockchain work. And then when companies talk about it, I'm convinced, when big companies start, people talk to us in the game space about it all the time. When I apply blockchain technology to the video game business, I'm like, please tell me how that works. And it's not sarcastic.
No, I get
I'm
it.
very interested.
You just know that they're putting hyperbole around a statement.
And
I agree with you.
And so
100%.
right now, do I believe in cryptocurrency? I don't. I know there are plenty of people who do. My attitude is I believe in speculations. They exist all the time.
Of course.
But anytime a so-called currency goes from $10 to $20,000 to $3,600 in the space of my recent memory, that's not a currency. That's something else. It's not a currency. And for people who transact outside a legitimate economy, they don't really care because their margins are so huge that what they care about is private transactions.
Yep.
But for the rest of us who have I have a really high margin in most of my businesses, but I don't have a sufficient margin to offset that kind of currency swing.
I understand.
So I'm not a believer at all in cryptocurrency. I think,
What about sports betting?
I'm a huge believer in sport. Well, first of all, it's a little late in the day since the U.S. government already said we believe in it.
Yep.
We're taking it from the federal government saying
Yes.
it's okay
Yes.
to the states regulating it in a way
Yes.
that works, be complicated. And you've got a very powerful...
I grew up in the liquor business.
Right, so you know.
Between cannabis and sports betting, two things in the macro I deeply believe in.
Right, but micro's different. And so you've got massive lobbies, very powerful lobbies, who've proven, by the way, that they can affect legislation of late. Who have
Not just of late.
Right, but in the casino business,
Yes. Well,
so what do I believe? That if you're already in the casino business in the U.S., will you be able to engage in broadly distributed, digitally driven sports betting? Yes. Do I believe that we, as a non-regulated, non-gaming company, can take our sports titles and turn them into gaming opportunities? It would be wonderful to believe that, and I'd be, if I were in the business of promoting our security publicly, I would say yes. I think the answer is that the opportunity may exist, but there are a lot of regulatory hurdles.
Yep.
There are obviously far fewer of them internationally.
Talk to me about, actually, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm curious about. So I've been really enjoying, similar to blockchain and cannabis and sports betting, the notion of esports teams. Watching a lot of people deploy the logic around something is, this is where I get interested. I think this is from afar, and then, it's very clear to me listening to you. There's a lot of things that we cross over in agreeing on. I'm fascinated by people's inability to synthesize things in lieu of what they hope or emotionally or financially want to happen. Watching people deploy esports strategies in today's environment's fascinating because much like what you did to whoever says to you, we're going to do this blockchain thing, I always say the same thing. I'm like, please explain to me why you think League of Legends is like the Major League Baseball system.
Right.
And when you get into even a basic first question and you watch people dance in front of you, now that I've got a better framework of how you process, and it's probably why I like you, what's your take on the esports ecosystem around the IP holders versus how the teams think they're going to conglomerate the power?
So we're in the business, right?
Yep.
So we eat our own cooking.
Yes.
But our view is that, like major sports, we believe in esports. There are
Yes.
250 million people who watch esports. There are a whole bunch of people who
You're
play.
preaching.
So for sure it's real. It is, however, the League of Legends business, and it's $1 billion business.
Yep.
And in our world, video game business alone, never mind the media business, never mind the sports business, video game business is $130 billion a year currently.
Yep.
Esports is $1 billion.
Yep.
It's a teeny little business, and the bulk of the market is League of Legends. And I say that as someone who's a competitor. We have the NBA 2K League.
Yep.
So I think there'll be somewhere between 3 and 7 powerful esports that will develop in the same way that there are between 3 and 7 professional sports leagues that truly matter. You got you got football, you got baseball, you got soccer,
So
especially
you
worldwide.
believe some of these IPs will come out, really lock in,
And absolutely, we'll
and
create,
then will become,
and they'll become
right?
very valuable.
Yep. And do you think teams will be able to sit on top and play in all of them? Be individual?
So I don't see a world, and this is perhaps wrong.
Yeah.
This is speculative, where you
The
can,
good news is, for all the things we've been right about, we've been wrong.
Yeah, many times, right?
Yep.
And what I say to people actually, and they ask my advice, especially when they're entrepreneurs, is this is one person's advice. But if you ask the great entrepreneurs, if when they talk to people about their ideas, people all said, "Five, that's awesome," that didn't happen. So you shouldn't listen to my ideas. If you truly believe, you should go do it. But in the case of esports, I have to eat my own cooking. I'm betting on, I'm paying for it.
Yes.
So what we said is, look, people love playing NBA 2K. It's the biggest sports title in the U.S., has been for years. People love competing in NBA 2K. They're doing it anyhow.
Yep.
So wouldn't it be sensible to have teams that compete at NBA 2K and then broadcast, if you will, we're on Twitch, those games? That seems to stand to reason. And so that's why we're going for it. Do I think those teams should be both NBA 2K and League of Legends and Overwatch? There's no real analogy for that in professional sports. I'm a little skeptical. I think if you want to be the best NBA 2K player,
Deion Sanders might just pop out of the side here.
Yeah, it's possible, and it's a different skill set.
No question.
But I think if you want to be the best NBA 2K player, you're probably not also going to be the best Overwatch player.
What I think is most interesting about what you're saying to me is, will they bake? Will 3 to 7 titles bake? Or because of the notion of the framework, different than creating a ball-centric sport, which is what we're coming from, where literally, look, EA just has a hit in a short, like, will it be more like the movie and television business where in perpetuity there will be games that capture 3, 4, 5 years? Or are you saying Marvel, Star Wars?
I'm more saying that.
I know that's what you're saying.
Because it's a sport.
But in Marvel and Star Wars, there still will be a Forrest Gump. There still will be, right? And so it'll be interesting if I'm actually just literally as you're talking, I'm like, ooh, so maybe it bakes 3 to 7, or maybe it bakes 6, and you're always in an environment where another 4 are always getting 5-year runs and 7-year runs versus the kind of 5 that get a 40-year run. I don't know.
I'm skeptical only because team play and watching team play seems to cluster around these very ancient forms. But you know what? This could be an example where history just isn't a guide of the future, because after all, League of Legends does not look like hockey, football, baseball, or soccer.
That's right.
So it remains to be seen. I feel very good about our bet. Because I feel like it's right in the pocket.
You're doubling down.
Yours is right in the pocket. Yeah. But that's it. It's early days.
I apologize.
We've had one season.
If you're watching on Instagram, Facebook, put in your phone numbers. Calvin's ready to call. We have to give you an opportunity to get some access to this wonderful thinking. You ready for doing one? You got one? Go ahead.
Yeah, you can ask personal questions too, not just business questions.
I like business questions. Is there anything you want to talk about that's personal?
No, anything you bring up.
I like trends. I like macro thinking. I love history.
Yeah, me too.
I like the way you're kind of storytelling because it's contextual, which is, I bet on context and human behavior. Yeah. It's not super complicated. And I'm patient.
We are unable to complete your call at this time.
Mel, we're going to go to the next call. Actually, speaking of that.
Speaking of Mel?
No, not Mel. And hold this for a second. Speaking of some of our similarities, how much do you get excited about analyzing things that are popping in culture? Is that something you get about?
Things that are popping in culture?
Like
all the time.
Cool. So that makes sense to me based on how we're talking.
All the time.
Give me something. Is there anything that's on your radar right now that you're like, huh? Or what's the last thing? Whether it's slime with 9-year-olds or K-pop, like what's in the
I would say has been the most recent social media apps that kids are using.
TikTok?
Yes, okay. That I was not familiar with. And
but so that's Musical.ly's reincarnation of Sure.
Exactly. So what I have is I have a young guy who every month comes in and shows me what's happening in popular culture that I wouldn't have run into.
Smart.
And
on that note, this is actually something I think I know as well.
He's one of our interns. He's great.
On that note, you've done
By the way, he had to delete the inappropriate stuff before he showed me.
Respect. He thinks you would get.
I love
He's
that.
confused.
That was great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You do a good job of that, right? Like, you do have, it's funny you just said, I don't know what that triggered me, but it seems like all of a sudden my brain just jiggered, and I feel like I've come across over the last 10 years 3 individuals that talk about spending time with you or having lunch with you or breakfast with you. You're doing that game, huh?
I spend about 25% of my time coaching and mentoring people at all stages of their career, all stages, including people who are older than I. But it does tend to skew younger. And I didn't do it for any other reason except that, I make light entertainment for a living. And I really thought it was important to find some way to make a difference. And it seemed that I could do that.
It came native to you.
And I saw I had an open door. And when you have an open door in a business that's hard to break into, like entertainment, you know what? People come in. And so
ready when you are.
I did it. I got to tell you, I didn't do it for this reason, but I've developed an extraordinary collection of friendships from doing it. Of
course.
So it's actually been amazingly worthwhile. And after all, that's how you and I met, because Ben brought you to my house.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Who's this? So TikTok's on your radar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And something next month will be.
What's interesting about that in the macro is it's people using something to help them create.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
I agree.
Who's this? Andrew.
Andrew.
Yes, you're Andrew, right?
Yes.
I'm Gary. Strauss too.
Hey, Gary.
Say hello to Strauss.
Man, Hey, Strauss. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just about to take my daughter home, but had to put my number up there. Had to tell you, Gary, you've been an inspiration to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
Really appreciate it.
Is there anything we can answer? Anything on your mind? Anything we can answer for you?
So, I just created. Well, let me start off. Been an entrepreneur almost since I was like 19.
Okay.
I'm gonna say.
Okay.
My father's been a hustler. He sold pots. He sold water filters, everything. He's always been telling me, always, hustle.
Where'd you grow up?
So, as I was, in New York.
Love it. Keep going.
New York. So, one day I sat down with my sister. We actually opened up a liquor store.
I know a lot about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so...
How's it going?
I do it...
So wait, break this down for me. You and your sister just sit down in the sofa in the living room, like, let's open a liquor store, and boom, you open a liquor store?
We've always kind of thought about it.
Okay,
and
good.
Actually, a place opened up.
That went out of business and you just took it over?
No, we just started from scratch. We didn't know about
I love it.
Liquor stores.
So how's it going?
So, it's doing not so good.
Why?
Not so good.
Why? What's your hot take? How long have you had it?
5 years.
What's your read? So not your hot take, your like educated guess. 5 years in, what's the struggle in your opinion?
To be honest with you, just a lot of things. Just, loss of customers, just maybe us not buying enough liquor, for cost and everything.
One of the tough things about the liquor business in the Northeast, specifically in New York and New Jersey, is it's much more of a price market than people realize. It's hard to differentiate when people know what they want, especially if you sell liquor and beer. One of the reasons I took my dad's store from Shoppers Discount Liquors to Wine Library was very quickly, as a 15-year-old, I said, I am not convincing this 80-year-old woman that just walked in that's been drinking Johnny Walker Black for 52 years to try some other scotch that I could make more money on. And the same thing became real for me of like truck driver Johnny. He's drinking Natty Light. Like, it's hard for me to move him. On the wine side, there was this exploratory kind of, I don't know anything about wine. I drink Kendall Jackson and Santa Margarita and Silver Oak, but I'm very insecure. Maybe you know something else. What's this Wine Spectator and Robert Parker? And I found my creative opportunity. And then once I understood winemakers mattered, I started painting pictures. And what picture painting allowed me to do was split up the business. I sold everything everybody knew about at cost. I literally sold Budweiser, Schaefer, Doors White Label Scotch, Santa Margarita, everything that people drank that they knew, that everybody knew, every brand, I sold at dead cost. And then I spent every single cent of my energy, life, that you would walk in because you knew we sold Budweiser at cost, or more importantly, specifically to wine. You knew that we sold Kendall Jackson and Santa Margarita at dead cost. They were the two most important items. And I would intercept you through my merchandising or actually being on the floor at first because we were a small company, and I would try to story tell to you why Santa Margherita Pinot Grigio at $12.99 was overpriced, which it was, which having truth on your side was great, and why you needed to try this $9.99 Pinot Grigio. But oh, by the way, I was making $4 a bottle on that versus $0 on the $12.99. And then when you tasted it and you liked it better, or at least in the same ballpark, I started building trust. You're in a commodity business. You have to create a differentiator.
Yeah. Well,
instead of standing behind the register and waiting for people to buy.
Honestly,
yeah,
I'm not scared to sell it. We're about to sell it, actually.
Okay.
I'm not scared to move on to next projects. You know, I'm a local. I actually, do a little bit of everything. I sell jewelry. I'm a DJ. I'm a local DJ.
Look, I'm all about being a Renaissance man, and I'm one. But one of the reasons the liquor store might be failing is because you're doing 87 things, which means you're doing no things.
Yeah, you got to focus.
Yeah.
Especially early in your career.
No.
That's a good point. Like, to me, listen, I love chaos. I'm doing 800 things.
You didn't start doing 800.
That's right. And anytime I know I'm about to do something, I did VaynerMedia head down for 5 years to build a foundation to do things.
I always tell people this. We got a lot of lines of business now. We got a bunch of companies,
Andrew?
8 companies. When people
Andrew,
say,
thanks for calling, brother. Good luck. Hit me
people
on the
say-
DM.
No, wait, hey.
Oh, sorry, Strauss. Go ahead.
Can I mention this one thing that
Go.
I want to tell you? This is what I called about. I just started this new application that I just made. It's up on the iOS store. It's for local DJs and local photographers. I feel like this is just going to be the greatest thing.
Of course, because you're going to build a two-way
that's what I
marketplace
call it.
to help people be discovered, right?
Yes.
The hardest
So
business
my
in the world
question
that
was-
everybody wants to build. That's why eBay and Uber are trillion-dollar companies, But go ahead.
Yes. My question was, how do I gain the trust for my users to start signing up?
You mean the supply? You mean
know-
the actual DJs, those people, or the consumers to find?
Yes, just the actual DJs, because when they start signing up, they see that they got to put in their bank, bank information.
My intuition on a limited context, I have 6 minutes and 13 seconds into you. I would go hand-to-hand combat. Go hand-to-hand combat.
Okay.
Localized DM, meet people, shake hands, kiss babies, get those first 50 to 70 people. People forget that Uber was in San Francisco for well over a year, almost 2 full years before they even came to New York, right? Everybody wants to expand. Just win. Where do you live right now?
New York and Yonkers.
Win Yonkers. One step at a time. I'm already impressed that you got into the App Store. A lot of people talk, they dream. I appreciate the execution. Not sure how you did it, build this and that. Win Yonkers. Win Westchester. Let's just start there. And how do you do that? Go to Google and go to Instagram and use hashtags and find the 50 to 500 local players in your market and go buy them some French fries. Give them a free bottle of booze. Figure it the hand-to-hand combat.
I want to say the name to my
Go ahead.
before I leave.
We'll give it to you. Go ahead.
It's Evently.
Evently?
Yes.
Good name too. All right, brother.
EVNTLY.
I love the hustle, brother. Good luck.
good luck.
All right, thank you.
Strauss, you were saying you
No,
give the
it's like
advice
a
of
lot of entrepreneurs will come and say, I want to have, I don't want to just do this thing. I want to do this thing, and then I want to have that division. I want to have that plan, and they'll outline 3 or 4 goals at once. And what I say is, I've never seen an entrepreneur, not once, who started with more than one thing. I've seen plenty who, having started one thing and made it successful, moved on. So I would say, as entrepreneurs go, Bill Gates, pretty good entrepreneur. He started with desktop operating systems, and they stuck with that for a long time.
long time. Yeah, actually, this is a good segue because this is something I'm passionate about. It might be a good place to take kind of our back half of this interview. Entrepreneurship. It's become a very different thing than what you and I knew it to be for a very long time, right? I was a bad student, which was unusual for immigrants from the former Soviet Union. All the kids, I took a lot of L's along the way because I just couldn't be anything else. I just didn't have it in me. Baseball cards or anything else, then wine, blah, blah, blah. I literally sat sophomore year in high school and would read the Wine Spectator cover to cover, and that's why I got D's and F's in science. And so it wasn't viable. I was this poor student, and I was doing I was making $3,000 a weekend selling baseball cards, but every parent of my friends and every teacher told me I was going to be a loser. There wasn't even the framework in 1990 to 89 to see the world through an entrepreneur's eyes. We are very much not there now.
That's right.
We are now in the other place where career students have decided they're going to be the next Zuckerberg, right? I'd love to get your perspective on the state of the union of entrepreneurship through your eyes based on the way I framed it up? Are you,
well, I mean,
what do you think's
world,
happening?
It's easier to approach the world. I mean, we just talked to someone who owns a liquor store who just got an app in the App Store.
Yep.
And, as you point out, maybe if he goes and hustles and promotes it, it could take off.
Yeah.
Pretty crowded place, the App
Very.
Store. Thousands of
and
new
the
apps.
joke I was
all
making, I was just kind of having a little fun with you, but trying to educate two-way marketplaces. I mean, that is 9,000 times a day in my DM and email. Because what I like is people scratch their own itch. They see the pain. They just don't realize how difficult it is to build a monster in that space. But nonetheless.
So I think, it's always been hard to build a business that's highly successful. It's still hard today. I do think the world's a little more forgiving today of people who take non-traditional paths.
Because of the cost of entry?
No, it's just gotten a little more popular because, really, really, really smart people like Mark Zuckerberg don't complete college and go on to be hugely successful. But in fairness, Bill Gates didn't finish Harvard.
Right.
He's my age. So I think...
The upfront costs to get in the game, though, have changed.
Yeah, the upfront cost is way lower.
And the scale of the end to get to the end consumer.
But the opportunity for great success is still the same.
Couldn't agree more.
And
what about I apologize, micro success? Something I'm getting outrageously passionate about, and really the book that put me on the map. A lot of people are like hustle, and they take shots at me. I'm like, did you read it? Because really what I'm saying is my intuition is 2008 is the way the internet's going specifically on social is there's a lot of people who can make $69,000 a year being thrilled, being an expert in Smurfs or selling jam, who are making 80. This was my thesis. You can make 88,000 having a job you don't love, or 120, or you can make 79 or maybe 140 being the foremost experts of Star Trek, and that's what played out.
So that's for sure the case. Our company, AdThrive, allows independent publishers to make a great living. Some of them actually are immensely successful and can become huge. For some people, it's a difference between making $20,000 in their spare time and making $100,000 a year, which they can live on and live on nicely.
Especially in stress. This is something that happiness has to be talked about more.
So I had lunch with an entrepreneur today, and he's in the fitness space. And he had walked away from a very big and successful career as an actor to go into the fitness space, knowing full well he would almost likely permanently make less money because it pleases him. And it's what he loves to do, and he's passionate about it, and therefore he's great at it. And it is his joy to spend his day in the gym improving people's lives. And no, he's not living horribly because he's so good at what he does. Sure. My feeling is, you're really, really good at what you do, generally speaking, you'll make a living. The other thing is most people, not everyone, most people are not, once they have food, clothing, shelter, and the ability to raise and educate their kids, most people don't care about incremental money. In terms of what truly makes a difference in your happiness. Some people do. No. Some people do.
By the way,
most people don't.
Especially if they can get into a place where they can deal with outside judgment.
That's right.
And aren't so insecure that they need things to prove things to people.
Exactly.
Usually they don't.
When they're self-motivated. So one of the, when I coach people, the question I start with is, what is it that you want, that you truly want? Not that other people tell you should want. Not
what you're trying to prove to somebody
exactly.
else.
What is it you actually want? And think about what that life looks like.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
For me, it's very clear. I love the game itself. The process is so much more enjoyable than the trophy. Like, do you feel like you're a process guy?
Well, I'm an achievement guy, I've decided. I like doing hard things.
Yeah.
And that's why if you look at what I do, I do turnarounds, I do really hard things in media. Sometimes I think like I'm intentionally the guy walking up a hill with a backpack full of rocks, and if one happens to fall out, I pick up another one. If I run into you, I grab your rocks too. So I'm not sure it's always the healthiest.
I got it.
But I like doing super hard things and then pointing, not to others, to myself, that I was able to do that. That means a lot to me. Maybe too much to me. Do I care about the money that comes with it? Yeah, I enjoy making money because it's fun to make money. It's certainly nice not to have huge financial constraints, and I don't want to minimize that. But does it motivate me day to day? No. Achieving interesting and hard things motivates me, and working in a field I love motivates me. I love media and entertainment, and I love working with creative people, which is how I spend about half my day. So
in the last 2 minutes here,
that really matters to me.
What did we not cover, or what from your? Is there anything you'd like to talk about?
I think I covered a lot of it. There are lots of things I like to talk about, but I think you sort of covered it towards the end, which is what are we all doing here? And it's tempting to sort of focus on are you going to be successful, or can you make it, or will the liquor store be successful? How do you have hand-to-hand combat to make your app successful? I think the thing I like to talk about is stepping back from them, which is why are you doing this? And, if the answer to the question is yes, that worked out, then what's the question?
Yeah.
If I say to you, you can have it, it's going to work, it'll be what you want. How many people have actually thought about, well, what exactly is that? I would say the one thing that I'm super proud of is that when I was really young, I knew basically what I wanted my life to look like when I'm this age. And while, of course, I couldn't have predicted it perfectly,
of course,
it's pretty close. And the other thing is, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone.
Couldn't agree more.
But it is for me. And I think one of the reasons I feel some satisfaction is not because I feel like I crushed it, not like I feel like I figured it out, and certainly not because I'm the most successful person on earth. I don't feel any of those things. But I set out to have a certain life that would work for me both professionally and personally, and more or less that's what I got.
Man, I got to tell you, when I tell people, after wishing people that I care about health, boy, is self-awareness the next thing that always populates, because once you map that, stuff can get real interesting.
Yeah, and more peaceful.
100%. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Russ. See you guys. You keep asking questions, we'll keep answering them. Hey podcast, it's me, Gary. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I've been blown away by the explosion of the podcast this year. And speaking about this year, this is the year that my empathy wine comes out. EmpathyWines.com is the website. EmpathyWines with an S.com is the website. If you've enjoyed this free podcast and it's brought you any value whatsoever, it would mean so much to me that at least you could go there and sign up for a 3-bottle subscription. Or if you're really into wine and you drink 36 bottles of wine a year, I highly recommend that you sign up for Club Empathy, which gives you a case of the rosé, the white, and the red. And by the way, I hear it all the time. Well, what if I don't drink red? Or what if I only like rosé? You can give away the bottles, because what comes along with a Club Empathy subscription is the fact that for $720, which is what gets you the 3 cases of wine, you also get an SMS sommelier, which means that there is a text number that you can text anytime, a cell number that you can text anytime. If you're going to Napa and want us to set up the trip for you, if you need a bottle of wine for your boss, like literally a white glove butler service of all your wine needs if you sign up for Club Empathy. EmpathyWines.com. Buy it or I'll die.